introductions. On the chat box, just tell us your name, where you come from, the country you come from, and if possible, the organization you represent before we proceed. And this will be very fantastic. So just a brief background about the Action Foundation. The Action Foundation is a community-driven organization that is based in Nairobi, and we work in the informal settlements of Nairobi. With children amplified. We participated in an East Africa-wide research on the barriers to education for girls. And after that, we decided to take a deep dive to just see what are the unique barriers that affect girls with disabilities in Kenya. And we opted to go the storytelling way so that we can capture the real experiences, the lived experiences of girls with disability. So with support from the Urgent Action Fund, we were able to record this documentary that we're about to share, just to highlight those barriers. So we say a big thank you to the Urgent Action Fund and our partners in Amplify for supporting this project. And so without further ado, I would like to take us straight to the keynote speech from a fantastic lady. Her name is Nafisa Babu. She's the Director for Inclusive Education at Light for the World. And I'm sure we are all excited to hear what she's going to share with us today. So to kick us off, please help me welcome Nafisa Babu. Nafisa, welcome.
Hello, everybody, and thank you, June, for that great introduction. And thanks to Maria and the Action Foundation for inviting me and creating this really great film that gives a good snapshot of the challenges that girls with disabilities face, and also the journey of their parents in accessing their education. And I think I could really relate to the feelings expressed in the film, the journey of girls of trying to fight for that sense of acceptance and belonging and a feeling of exclusion that so many of them spoke about, not just the girls, but also their parents and wanting to be included in their school. So I work for Light for the World. It's a disability and development organization. And my personal mission, which resonates and links well with the mission of our organization, is to make sure that no girl or child should have to carry this burden of not feeling like they're not good enough to be in this world or be included in schools and in society. And that's what we're trying to change, right? And I want also every parent of a child with a disability to really see their inherent perfections, abilities, and potential. Because I feel that this is often what is lost because we're always talking about what a child with a disability doesn't have. You know, they cannot hear, they cannot do it. It's always about what they can't do. And so often their beauty and just inherent perfection, because we are all born perfect, is forgotten about, as well as their potential to learn. So sadly today, as we're going to see in this movie, many girls with disabilities and the poorest countries around the world are really trapped in the stigma and societal norms, and any chance of working outside the home and pursuing a career is squashed because their right to inclusive education, that's also gender transformative, is denied. But this can and will change. It really can and will change if we make a concerted effort, right, to invest in quality education for girls with disabilities that live in the most remote areas, for girls with disabilities who are in IDP camps, who are affected by conflict and other humanitarian crises. So where do we start? Okay. So we need to move from this symbolic commitment, I feel. It's not a symbolic commitment to action, but we need to move from this to radical inclusion. And that means really being deliberate and tackling beliefs, these negative stereotypes about what it means to be a girl and a woman in society, and also take a more deliberate effort in the way we do capacity building and walk in that journey with schools to transform. And when I talk about deliberate action, it also means that we have to double up now. You know, when times are tough because of the COVID pandemic, we know we're at risk of losing or backstepping on the gains that we've made in trying to get both children with disabilities in school, and particularly girls. And this means that we have to make sure there are more investment around. It means money, often, and human resources as well. And really make sure that we we tackle the barriers that so many girls with disabilities face, because when we do that, we make schools and society good for all children, regardless of their abilities and with addressing the needs of those left last in line. So what I feel is really important, and I spoke about it first, is tackling those societal beliefs. We need to change and dismantle this thinking and social constructs on how we view children, because in many of our communities, and even the community I come from, people still view children as assets that have a value that is based on their abilities to perform in school, abilities to work, do certain tasks. And this is really not right, because we then ignore them and don't see their beauty and forget about them as rights holders and forget our obligation to make their rights a reality. So this is one of the first things we need to do, and change that cultural mindset. And this is particularly hard, right, for mothers of children with disabilities, because often they are also facing that same oppression of being a woman in society where it's still a man's world, right? They are still relegated to having to do more household chores, often are not and didn't have an opportunity to go to school. And so they don't have access to the information and opportunities that they could, that would help them, pull them out of poverty. So when I talk about tackling discrimination, it's really it's a constant thing that we have to do. We have to really work with parents and work with mothers to also give them the tools to fight back and challenge these societal norms, and as well as that, and also give them hope. Because often, you know, the message that girls get is that that you're an inconvenience. You are not, you are never good enough. And then you look for acceptance and security from others. And it's no wonder that so many girls with disabilities are prey to abuse and sexual predators are taking advantage of them, because often they are needing and looking out for love and acceptance elsewhere, because they're not feeling that in their families, in their communities, in their schools. And this really needs to stop. It's not a good thing. So we have to make sure that girls have good role models to look up to. That we make a concerted effort to, when we build the capacity of girls or build the self-esteem and self-worth of girls with disabilities, that we do that with their mothers and with their fathers, right? We can't let dads off the hook. And I think that this is so important, to take this approach, this holistic approach, when looking at the family unit, helping and supporting the child, and changing and challenging societal norms in the community. In many of the projects I work on, and I know that Action Foundation also does this, is working with parents and parent support groups, because this is often a good time to talk about the difficult stuff, things that and find ways to deal with it, with the emotions, the feelings of feeling stigmatized, and also get advice and courage from what other parents have done. And girls also need that same kind of coaching and support. I always feel that, you know, I really benefited a lot as a teenager, when I was trying to get to know myself and feeling even more different than others because of my visual impairment. And so it really helped that I got this, joined the youth group, and I could learn about how to value myself more and look at and really build up my self-esteem and self-worth. And I think that process of socio-emotional learning needs to be deliberate. We need to deliberately invest in developing girls' socio-emotional learning skills so they can really learn to value themselves and make good decisions. And also, more importantly, speak up for themselves. Because when society is not giving you what you need, or your school or your family, you need to have that voice to be able to say, I need to be able to stand closer to the board to be able to see. Yeah, I need help to I need maybe another student to coach me or to help me with my mathematics. But you only get that courage when you have a sense of self-worth and have accepted yourself. So this is something important to build in young girls. When I was younger, I started to read quite early. So I drew a lot of inspiration from reading books about courageous women and people. And I thought, and that's what gave me the motivation to be better and do better. But every child, and I think every girl in particular, needs a cheerleader. And sometimes it's a teacher that believes in you. Sometimes it's that community worker. And sometimes it's a role model of a person with a disability in your country, in your community, that you see that's achieved, that's gone to school, gone to university, has a business. Because I think when you seeing is believing. So when you see someone that is like you, that looks like you in those positions of power or successful, it gives you the courage to also put in the work to become and put in the work to become, and the hard work that is needed to overcome all these barriers that we are always facing. But at the same time, we really need to tackle societal norms. And that also comes from having more role models in the community, but actively having conversations about why we don't value one another, having conversations with fathers about the value of a girl and that she should go to school, and that she's not just good enough, that marriage should not just be her only ambition, right? So we need to have these conversations in the community with fathers, with boys, and that can really start in schools in many cases. Now, before I talk about that, I want to tell you about a very inspirational young woman, Lucy. She is one of the inclusive disability inclusion facilitators in Juba. She's only 21 years old. She had her first child when she was 13 years old. And only after her kids are now more independent, and she started educating herself and going back to school, and she joined an organization of persons with disabilities. And that's where she got additional training to become a disability inclusion facilitator and also earn an income. The first thing she did with her income was to send her children to a better school in Uganda. And because she knew the emancipating power of education. So what does Lucy do now? So she actually supports 4 schools in her surrounding area to be inclusive. She goes to talk to the teachers. She accompanies some of the children and their parents to the school and negotiated their entry into the school and gave advice and support to the teachers on how to make reasonable accommodations for the child in the classroom. And because she's so committed to inclusive education. And she's been an amazing role model. But this is what happens when you empower a girl. And particularly a girl with disabilities. I know so many phenomenal women with disabilities that are change makers in this world. And it really takes courage, but also like one person to believe in them. And Lucy had that person. My colleague, Sophia Mohammed, our disability inclusion advisor and country director. She believed in Lucy, and she has helped and supported Lucy to be this change maker and leader in that community. So why does Lucy focus on schools? I think you'll see in the video, lots of the girls are talking about how the school that they went to was not always so welcoming. Sometimes they felt more accepted at the special school than the school in their community. It is really not an easy thing, and we have to invest in schools to be more inclusive and welcoming. So what does this mean? So it means that we need to not just focus on building ramps or putting in better lighting or having better signage in the school. A school's culture, the atmosphere in the school is so important. We really need to work on that. And this means also looking at what are the students there, what are some of the assets around the school? What are the organizations around the school and NGOs that can help support the school to deliver quality education that's inclusive, that supports all children to thrive regardless of their abilities, and really thinks about quality education. So one of the first things to do, I think it's important that schools do at school level, because I think we'll hear a lot about, we always hear a lot about the community awareness and all of that, but it's really important that we focus on transforming the school community and activate them and get them on board to collectively problem solve. That means the parents, the children, the teachers, all of them should be on board and understand why inclusive education is the right approach and how it's important to be more gender transformative in the way they have gender parity in the equal number of female teachers versus male teachers, that teachers encourage both girls to also study the sciences like mathematics and science, and really also put in place mechanisms for girls to learn about the sexual reproductive health, right? So we really need to look at having, bringing the school community on board. And I want to make it clear that it's not just the obligation of parents and to fight for their child's inclusion. It's really important that we also engage the teachers and not forget the power of children themselves, because children often see opportunities where we see barriers, right? They have a fresh outlook on things. And I would not have survived or coped at school if it wasn't for the friends that I had. They were really supportive, helped me with copying my notes. And I think those relationships have carried me through a life, and they often are the best advocates to tackle negative stereotypes and raise awareness in the community. In our projects, we have a lot of school clubs, disability inclusion clubs at school level. And this is where girls and boys with and without disabilities come together. They do sport, they do cultural activities to raise awareness. And I think that, and we also do leadership training with these school clubs, and they become the voice for the voiceless. And I think that this is a really important mechanism, because we often are forgetting the power of children to transform and transform the society. Another thing that I think is really important is that we do more movies and films like this, not just films about explaining the problems, but also offer solutions and hope, because they are amazing. And I know that Maria and her team have amazing examples of how young people like Lucy have triumphed over challenges. And I think, and have made a success of themselves. We really need to amplify these messages more and look at some of the enabling factors, what has worked in their lives. And I think a lot of that starts with having those cheerleaders and having parents who love you and are able to see your potential. And I think that is such a key ingredient for any child or any girl with a disability, or any girl in general. So moving forward, I just want to say that we are now at a very big, a big crossroads in the world, right? I think more than ever, we should recognize that education is the weapon for emancipation, to freedom, to success. And this means that we really need to double down and make a concerted effort for radical inclusion and take the step necessary to empower girls, and particularly girls with disabilities, because they are and can be the change makers in this world.
Thank you very much, Nafisa. It can't get better than that. I think that is a very good place to start us off. To the participants, please engage us on the chat box, send us your comments, your questions. Our sign language interpreter is there for inclusion purposes. So if you need sign language interpretation. Florence is on call. And I like the message that has come from the keynote address, that we should see and recognize the perfection and the ability and the potential of girls with disability. And we also need to get to the point where we are empowering the girls to speak up for themselves, engaging the children in the steps towards radical inclusion. I'm very happy that this speech happened because it has made my life very easy. It has set the pace for the day. Thank you very much for that, Nafisa. Just to pick it up from that, we will go straight into our first panel discussion, which will be moderated by Janet Chapia from the Action Foundation. And the panel will focus on perception and expectations of school-going adolescent girls with disability. Sheila Lita from the Directorate of Special Needs Education, from the Ministry of Education. Welcome.
Thank you, June. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I am excited to be here today. My name is Sheila Luta from Ministry of Education Headquarters. I work in the Directorate of Special Needs Education as an education officer, and receive greetings from our director, Mr. Frederick Ochieng Haga. He would have loved to join, but he wasn't able because of other assignments. So I think after the keynote speaker has spoken, June, I feel like we were thinking the same, and maybe our scripts were shared somewhere in the social circles or in our mental circles. But I can say that the government is very keen on breaking barriers for our girls with disabilities. And this is one of the forums that make me so excited, just to realize that people out here are keen on breaking barriers for our girls with disabilities, for them to excel, not just academically, but also socially, and also realize their maximum potential despite the challenges that they may be facing. The challenges may be cultural, may be attitudinal, but we pray that when we come together, we'll be able to make our girls' voices to be heard. And throughout this narrative, I said, I will move away from policy because we have the policies, we have the stakeholders. Each one of us comes with very good presentations on paper, academic presentations, but how about if we now get so keen about implementation of what we always present or what we always talk about in these forums? And remember, we are saying that we are moving from looking at our girls with disabilities as objects of sympathy or objects of receiving mercy or items, to people, realizing that they are also people, they have feelings, they have abilities. So looking at them, we may see a disability or we may not see, for those that are not physically present, but what is in this child, what is in this learner that can be used as a springboard, as a stepping stone for this particular girl with disability to move to the next level. And we are also looking at how about if we start with the person? And I think that is what Nafisa was insisting on. And I've always spoken about it, that how about if we start with the person? Who am I? What is the role that I have for myself, for building and growing myself in my environment, and even maybe another environment that I may get exposed to, especially now that we are speaking about school or any other institution of maybe academic or vocational training. Who am I? What is my role for myself? Am I able to harness all that is within me after being empowered and after being made to realize who am I? Am I able to bring out all that is within me to make me thrive in this environment? Am I able to bring out all that is within me to be a solution giver for the problems and the gaps that we face, even the current barriers that we are facing? Am I able to arise, shine, and speak and be the change, and not to wait for people to make change. I may have a disability, but who said that if I have a disability, I cannot be the voice? I cannot offer solutions. I cannot make informed decisions. Just as we empower our girls without disabilities and invest so much in them, how about if we also invest so much in these girls with disabilities so that they also have a chance to excel, to do well, and to even mentor, to leave footprints that people can walk or follow after for them to also excel. And I believe that is what we want to do. So we want to put all our resources together. We want to come up with a mental and social shift so that our thinking capacities are different from what was there before, what we have read before, from the stereotypes, from what other people think. When we have a mind shift, we are able to create solutions, we are able to provide, we are able to support. We may provide so much, but we are not able to support. But we may provide so little and attain so much out of the kind of support that we have given. So for me, on behalf of the Ministry of Education, I would say that we need to collaborate. All the stakeholders involved need to collaborate, and especially the role of parents and caregivers. And even as we talk about parents and caregivers, are we remembering our girls with disabilities who are in the small homes, in the children homes, or any other institution? Those are also parents and caregivers, the directors and CEOs of organizations that work with our girls at various levels. We need to bring them together so that we achieve together as one. So ours is to break barriers by using a blended psychosocial approach. We have pumped so much academically, we will support, but we also need to remember that this is a person, a girl or a woman with a heart, with a soul, with a mind, with emotions, with a body. So how do we empower this girl with disability to live a meaningful life within our communities? And even as I finish up, I would like to say that disability or not, you can achieve so much beyond physical attraction, beyond your body. But how about if all the members of who you are brought together and empowered for you to be able to mentor others? We are all about mentorship and legacy. Sheila did well, so I can do better. When you're in a race, when you're in a relay, let's say a 400 by 4 relay, the finisher is always considered to be the strongest. The starter and the finisher are very important. And we are handing over batons to our girls with disabilities. How about if we start at such a high and collaborative speed so that our girls with disabilities will also hand over these batons and we will finish. By finishing is not closing whatever we are doing, but finishing is clapping or applauding and saying, we made it. Now let us support the next girl with disability. Thank you so much, the Action Foundation and all the invited guests. I want to believe that we are here because we are speaking in one, we are reasoning as one, and we shall achieve as one. Thank you so much. Over to you, June.
So I would like to invite our Executive Director, Madam Maria Omare, to give us the next presentation. Then we'll circle back to the second panel. Welcome.
Thank you so very much, June. Thank you everyone for joining us today. It is an honor to have you at our event, where we are launching our documentary on barriers to education for girls with disabilities. The World Health Organization and the World Bank estimate that in some countries, having a disability more than doubles the chances of ever enrolling in school. An estimated 1 in 3 school children who are out of school have a disability. Being a girl and having a disability represents double discrimination, as we have seen in the documentary. The COVID pandemic unearthed existing inequalities in access to education opportunities for girls with disabilities. During the pandemic, the barriers that girls with disabilities experience have increased. They continue to face multiple and significant barriers in education. Therefore, our call to action is implement policies to ensure retention and transition for girls with disabilities, increase access to psychosocial support for girls with disabilities, remove barriers to education for girls with disabilities, enhance teacher effectiveness in supporting the needs of girls with disabilities in school, and we believe that girls with disabilities have an equal right to education. All of us have a role to play to make this achievable. Let us all cast a stone, such as it is a ripple that is cast that eventually becomes an ocean. So let us cast the first stone and let us do our part in our different circles of influence to ensure that girls with disabilities are not left behind. With those few remarks, I hand it back to June. Thank you. Let's keep engaging. Our hashtag is Break Barriers for Girls with Disabilities. Thank you.
I'd like to invite the closing remarks that will be given by Madam Sheila Luta once again to just walk us through what has happened today and share with us one call to action that will inspire all of us to start handing over that baton that was alluded to earlier. Madam Sheila.
Thank you so much, June. There are so many policies that have been developed and are being implemented to support inclusion at all levels and for all categories of disabilities or any area of marginalization, depending on each situation. And as my lecturer said one time, if you see a person with disability, that is that person with a disability. So we are not going to generalize anything. However, the sector policy for learners and trainees with disabilities that was launched in 2018 actually fronts for inclusive education. What I want us to know, even as we push on these narratives from an advocacy perspective, I always also want to encourage the people around me that we are in a journey. This is a journey, and someone said that great journeys start with that single step. The moment you decide walking, like what we are doing now. So we will not expect miracles as far as inclusion is concerned, but I can assure you that good work is going on, advocacy is going on, awareness is going on, infrastructural adjustments, environmental adjustments, attitudinal adjustments, and other adjustments are ongoing. It may not come as fast as we desire, but I want to assure you that the government is working in collaboration with so many partners, the Action Foundation, UNICEF, Leonard Cheshire, VSO, and many others that I may not be able to mention, to front for inclusive education. The policy is actually anchored on inclusive education, 100%, but there is a clause, even when you go to that chapter on inclusive education, that we shall not do away with schools. Why? Because we may have some severe conditions or severe needs that actually a mainstream school may not provide. So even as we front for this, how about if we look at what is happening, what have we been able to do and appreciate? I like the way the girls from KU approached the discussion, and kudos to you girls. I think through the Action Foundation, I may be able to meet you one of these fine days. Yes, you acquired disability at various stages. You've had all these challenges and barriers, but look, I was able to access education. I am doing my master's. I'm an undergraduate, and we have hope. It is possible. That is the kind of narrative that we want. We want to move from negativity to positivity. Yes, we have challenges. What have we been able to do? As far as inclusion is concerned, we need to change, adapt the classrooms. Like for the deaf, if all classes should have acoustic walls, you can imagine that investment. We need to adjust the furniture in the classrooms, in the laboratories, in the dining halls, in the boarding facilities. And we have the National Council for Persons with Disabilities Accessibility Guide, which guides our institutions. We are somewhere. Things are not the way they were. And I want to encourage each and everyone in this forum and even outside this forum, because I know we agree that we are the voice. We are the voice. Should there be anything that you feel we need to capture, kindly don't be locked out by the end of the meeting. Bring it on board to us. We will take it to the various persons in charge. And I have a lot of confidence in the Action Foundation. I happen to be the coordinating officer for most of their projects. And we have achieved so much. We have approached so many stakeholders, even those that people thought they were unapproachable. And so I want to assure you that through the Action Foundation and other partners who are willing, and I'm using the word willing purposely, we shall achieve more. Next time we meet in such a forum, we shall celebrate extra milestones. Thank you so much, the Action Foundation, all the organizations, panelists, participants. On behalf of Minister of Education, Directorate of Special Needs, I want to thank you and just say, keep it hot. I always say, keep it hot, and let us keep the baton exchanging hands meaningfully. Thank you so much.
You'll be able to join us. So thank you all very much for joining us today. We appreciate you. In case you have any questions, leave them on the chat box, and we will also send that along with the recording. And the video, the documentary is launching on YouTube at 6 p.m. this evening. So you feel free to hop in there with your friends and spread the word about the wonderful work that you're doing, so that we can all make the world more inclusive and we can make women and girls with disabilities the change makers that they are. Thank you so much. I don't know if Madame Maria or Maria would like to give us the final remarks before we end this call.
Thank you, Jill. Thank you, everyone. And we look forward to engaging toward this advocacy journey in our different capacities. Have a lovely evening and have a lovely day, depending on where you're joining from. Bye, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Maria.